Okay, all set? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Do we have any observers that want to make comments?
Oh, we're sorry.
No, okay, fine. Next is approval of the minutes of the regular and closed meeting of July 13th, 2022. Can I have a motion on the approval of the regular minutes? Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, can I have a motion to approve the meeting of the closed meeting on July 13th, 2022? Motion to approve. Anybody? So moved. Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that passes 7-0. Next is the director's report.
Good evening, everyone here. I'll just try to highlight a few things. I think most of the stuff here is self-explanatory, but just a note about the strategic planning process. I know that we are a little delayed with that, but I still feel really positive about the process. We're taking a little bit more time to look through all the community feedback and responses that we received from the community conversations, one-on-ones, the survey. So looking forward to next week's meeting. I think that we'll make a big jump next week. And I've heard some preliminary things from the people who are going to present that information, and it's exciting to think about where it is. If it's okay, if the board doesn't have any objections, I think that the process will be pushed back a little bit, which I didn't think was a big deal because the board at the beginning of this process kind of gave me a signal that we're not in a huge rush to finalize this new strategic plan. I think actually it'll match up anyway well with the beginning of the calendar year, and maybe just be on that cycle. So that's that. There is something with as you know, we've had a number of smaller enhancements or kind of adjustments to the renovated spaces over the past year, using funds that were remaining from our bond proceeds. And I just want to highlight one of them that's coming up, and I don't have it ready for approval for your consideration tonight, but I will probably at the next meeting. It's just kind of the one comment that we've received, not from the majority, but just a handful of people consistently, is that people's perception of lighting when they come into the West entrance. A lot of people love it and they appreciate that it's not like full blast, but some people have the perception that the lighting is not as good as it needs to be. So we've had continuous conversations with our architect and lighting consultant and construction manager to figure out what else can we do. We made some enhancements and adjustments. The last thing I think we want to do is kind of add a little bit more track lighting along the sides of the center there to illuminate the sides of the custom displays a touch better, both on the west side and some of the display tables on the east side. So I think we have a plan in place. We're just waiting for the quote. It'll be around $20,000. We have money in our account to cover that, and still have money left over for other projects if needed. So I'll bring that to the board for this. Just want to make an announcement about the Backlot Bash. Hopefully, we'll all have a chance to attend. I'll be there. And your favorite event, I have the Kiwanis drawing. I have the pancake tickets. So if you're interested and you're here that weekend, come see me. And the pancake breakfast, I know I saw Michelle there last year, and Mark has been there, and Jane, you've been there. So if you're available on Sunday morning, it's a good event, and it's also nice to see a lot of people.
Laura, a lot of years, Richard, you must be really good at flipping.
That's not my job. I've never done the flipping of the pancakes. I'm more I give people sausages, which is a very important role. I have to say that. And then, what did I do yesterday? I just cleaned tables and delivered coffee. Yeah. No, I did coffee was.
Okay.
What did you do?
I was serving pancakes.
Okay, serving
For hours.
Yeah. I think you have to like have a veteran status to get the flicking the flags, you know? So- Exactly, yes, yes. I'm not there yet. Also, another thing I wanted to really highlight here, actually, the most important thing is the news about Randy O'Brien. She received a really prestigious LA award. That was really nice to see, and I think I have the actual press release. I think I might have sent it to the board, but we'll send it to the board to read the whole thing. And it's Judge Librarian, and she does really good work for the families. So it's always nice to see that kind of recognition.
And Mark's got the board letter already.
Yes, that's right. My board's writing letters. Yeah, and Laurel Dooley, Laurel Johnson, who won the TV award a couple of years back, and we celebrated that. So we'll make sure to do something special. Basically, yeah, if the board has any other questions, I'm happy to answer. My director's.
Any other questions, comments?
The superintendent of D219 was great meeting him, very friendly. I got a very warm feel, very personable, very easy to speak with. I'm sure he came over for a tour of the library. Laurel, our team services manager, and I went around with him. And all along the way, we just kind of shared how we partner with the team, just to make sure that transition was smooth with the library and the team. I have no doubts that further along that relationship is feel very positive. Sure, that's perfect.
Okay, next is approval of the July 2022 disbursement report. That begins on page 5, your handout, and any questions or comments on that? Oh, I have a question on that. Could you explain to the board the payment on 6020 to the Niles Township property tax appeal?
Yeah, it's a regular thing that you'll see occasionally on our disbursements. And Blythe has explained this before too, and I'll let Blythe do it,
No,
because
I
she
mean,
does a
it's
much
okay.
better job of
That's
it than I
okay.
can attempt to.
We pay a bill twice a year because, as you know, we're with all the other districts and we do it. And it's for legal fees, and it's also when someone goes to the Property Tax Appeals Board, we have the lawyers and we split it among all the taxing bodies. So it was a $1,500 bill, but then if we settle on something, they actually give me detail on what we save. So I've always felt that what we pay them twice a year is well worth what we earn back, because they'll decide if we're gonna continue to go back and forth and incur legal fees. They'll make a decision like, do you want to settle? If you settle, this is how much you'll save from what they are appealing.
Basically, we're opposing reductions in the property
Yes.
tax by businesses.
Yes, that's what we are doing. And this is for 6 months of legal fees and everything included in what we are opposing.
I'll just mention one other thing, is that the reason why we have a cooperative like this is because a business has multiple public taxing bodies that are district, right? So like us, a business might have us, the park district, and one of the school districts, right? And D219 in the township. So although we have different schools, feeder school districts in the township, there are common kind of groupings, and that's why it's easier to handle all this business together as cooperative.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the disbursements report? Anyone?
On 6120, from Fifth Third Bank for $4,278.
Yeah, that's, whenever you see Fifth Third Bank, that'll always correlate to the credit card charges from how we pay for conference registrations, all that. So that's a total of all the continuing ed amounts that are mentioned in, page 9.
Yeah, if you look at page 9, you see a
Oh, okay.
breakout.
It always kind
Mental.
of, yeah, it always matches up.
Got it.
So, but the answer to that is basically it's a, these are conference registration and membership, association memberships.
Okay, thank you.
That's a
There's a lot of
technical-
conferences and memberships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve the July 2022 disbursement report.
So moved.
Second? Okay, and we have to do this individually.
Yes.
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 Okay, that passes 7-0. Next is the consent agenda, beginning at page 11. Any questions or comments there? I do see there's a substantial increase in the gate count, and they're going up.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more people. Nice to see you. Still not at pre-pandemic levels. That's sort of margin, but it's going in the right direction.
And there's also, I see in the adult library, number of borrowings of print materials is almost up to the pre-pandemic.
Right. We've been very pleased and encouraged by our print circulation. Right spot in our circulation. I think that just is evidence that the way the collections were meticulously laid out and displayed, and that's the work of Laura and our access services manager and her whole team. It's doing its job, right? People are discovering and browsing.
And the communication is just fantastic. Between the email, socials, everything is really just great.
Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Yeah, the only thing I flagged for figured online was just the significant decline of like audio and visual in particular for adults. Like it's nothing that we necessarily need to do anything about it now, but just kind of keeping an eye on the trend to make sure that the items that we have are relevant as consumers of patron taste as those evolve. So just something to know.
See the drop in the ebook use?
Like video, for example.
DVDs.
Yeah, DVDs.
That's a really good point. I think I mentioned to you in my response. But for the benefit of the others, I mean, that's something that it's very hard to predict, but we'll have to keep an eye on over the next several years. You know, like how quickly will that continue to drop? You know, it will continue to drop, right? But how quickly will it happen, and at what point will we know that the right decision is to remove that collection entirely, as opposed to like kind of giving it along, like trying to, because even though the percentages are down, the actual raw number of circulations is actually quite strong still. It's a considerable number. If it was like 50 circs a month, or whatever, then we would know that we can't spend all that space on that collection. But with thousands still circulating, so people are still finding those collections. But I'm very interested in watching those and how that kind of plays out, because then we'll know at some point we'll repurpose that floor space for something. That'll be an interesting conversation to have.
And I remember historically, we've been tracking exactly those figures, and when we were looking at the renovation plan, we already thought about that. We
Yeah.
said, if DVDs and other physical media, if they become no longer, the vogue, then how can we repurpose those shelves and those
Exactly,
things.
we placed them in a space where it could easily become more open seating and tables or displays.
The question that I had, and I didn't mark a page number, I'm sorry. And around the, there's a chart that shows the usages for or it shows canopy and overdrive, which I'm good. However, my question is, do we have any sense of really how many people are using this service?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so, and based on that, whether or not we want more from them or less, because right now, it's what, canopy, you can see, you have 15 views per month. I run out in about 3 days. And then I'm like watching the calendar. So I think those are really, really good. I'm feeling like there's something that needs more communication around it, that we remind people that that's there, because I'm constantly saying, have you seen this movie, go to Canopy? People say, what? Go to where?
Yeah.
So.
At one time, the canopy usage was lower than we thought it would be. Has it gone up? Gloria?
Yeah, it's still much smaller than Overdrive and Hoopla. It also has fewer items in it to choose from, but it has steadily increased, yes. We're seeing increased usage.
I think Devin in the quarterly dashboard, we have several times that this, the reality that, we're with the resource use, they kind of shot up during the start of the pandemic because everyone couldn't leave their house. And then now we're actually like seeing it at more normalized levels, but still with the trend level of like increasing. So if you see like a decline, it could just reflect, if you're looking at certain numbers, it looks like a decline because you're comparing to like, say, 2020, 2021, when everything is still a roof. So now it's like balancing out a little bit more like I agree with you about just continuing to make sure that people hear about Canopy and they're excellent resources.
They really are. I want to know what the librarians are watching. And, I mean, it's sort of like the way we do the books, that, this is what we do, we all like this on Overdrive. I got a bunch of movies you guys have got to see.
I think that's a great idea. I feel like we've done that maybe in social media, but I feel like we've done advisory on things like available on our streaming services, but that's a good idea for us to.
And I believe on Overdrive, you can control sort of the little strip at the top.
Yeah.
So we can feature things there, and maybe that's a way to.
But we could do like a Canopy, what the library recommend, or what we're watching on Canopy and social media. So we'll make a note, he's writing notes. We'll, whenever things like this are shared in the board meeting, we pass it along to our colleagues.
Sharon is wonderful at giving film recommendations, so maybe you could have her write a column.
Sharon has like legendary status in our library.
Yeah.
She's watched everything and is so good at connecting people with their interests.
She is.
We need a movie recommendation, especially.
Yes. Your mom is really good too.
Yes.
Oh,
All of us.
It would really help with Canopy, because the thing about Canopy is you've got to find the right movie, so getting some recommendations would be helpful.
I think that's great. Yeah, we can definitely do more of that, especially through other digital communication platforms like social media or website.
It's good to see the youth numbers up, because I know we asked about it.
Yeah.
Rising.
I'm fairly confident that over the next year or so, we'll see. As long as the bookmobile's in working order and we can actually take it out, we'll see a lot more people now that we're inviting them. Thanks for pointing that out.
And I really love, like I saw them, I went in there for a national night out, and I really like how the bookmobile, has a presence at our community events and things like that.
It
So
just makes people happy when they see it.
Yes.
They don't even have to go on the campus. Just when I drive past it, it makes me happy. So yeah, I That's a great point. We try to get it out to the different events. They have to have parking space first.
Yeah, that's true. It was a little tight,
Yeah.
but they made it work, and the
Yeah.
staff members there were very nice, and
Yeah.
it's very pleased, so.
But, yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Again, the book bike, I think it's full, it's folded into the book bike is doing well. It's going out into the community. I think it's mentioned in the quarterly highlights too. People love seeing the book bike. I think once it was on the website, it was just so many people, it was a big hit. Yeah, people love it. But that's really, we've never really meant it for high surf because it can only fit like.
And I'm not sure we serve anything from the book, like
Oh,
we usually give away
That's right, that's right.
withdrawn or
Yeah.
donated books.
We changed our strategy on that because it was just more hassle than we were to circulate.
And people don't have, they didn't bring their card, and we don't have to worry about connecting to our Cirque system, and it's just a way to, connect with the community.
Yeah, and also talk to people about the library and maybe come to the library, get a card or whatever.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda?
This is because of the consent agenda, I'm talking about the bookmobile, et cetera. Does the bookmobile and book bike ever participate in any of the parades that we do because of the?
I mean, it was scheduled to, the boat was, well, at least the bookmobile for sure was scheduled to be this year, but, it was canceled. But, before COVID, and we were out there every summer. Which was every day. We'll definitely see it out there as soon as.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So motion.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we have on page 42, the approval of the Communico renewal.
This is something that, if, those of you who are here in September 22, will probably recognize. This is the software that we use for a lot of our programming, kind of back end of our programming, registration, the kind of room bookings, all of our displays, public monitors, whether they're on program rooms or at entrances, or even our study rooms, sign up iPads, all of that software is. So it's a suite of apps or modules of technology. It's time to renew with them. We had a 2-year, we've been doing 2-year renewals, and then this year they said that they're asking for a 3-year renewal at a fixed cost that we've been paying for years now. So they're not increasing their fees. And we're very happy with them, and don't see coming off this platform. Big deals of change. I don't even think there's a solution out there that can do everything that we ask. We work with them a lot on customizing the look and appearance of everything too, so that we get it kind of matching their aesthetic and designs.
Just a question, does this particular software allow audio on some of the larger, like the entryway displays and, some of the larger?
Interesting question. I don't think so, but I know that what it might be able to do is like kind of intersperse like kind of video content within like slides and stuff, like kind of like alternating and stuff. And I think if that has audio, I think it can play it. But we haven't really done it.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
You
know
said
we
no.
can do static photo slides, but
I'm almost sure that we posited that there's some way to enter video, but maybe I'm.
I'm still thinking about that discussion on getting other languages heard
Yes.
in the library. And that, those displays, which are familiar to so many people already, is a perfect place to put in other languages because you aren't completely lost.
Yeah. Susan, can you make a note for me to check in with Jane on that? If not, we can ask for it for community code and see if that's something that they're developing. That's one good thing about this company is that they're receptive to our ideas and they're always kind of improving every aspect of their companies. We were actually one of the first libraries in the West to work with them. Founders, someone you can email directly. I think he appreciates our libraries.
I'm smiling.
It's okay. I see it. So I don't know if there are any other questions.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion to approve the renewal of the 3-year Communico contract at the total cost of $15,000.
So move.
Okay, a second. Second. Okay, we have to do this individually.
Yes.
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 Okay, that passes 7-0. Update of anticipated capital projects that's on page 46.
You know, this is, as you all know, we've been, we've received several of these already. Every 6 months, I provide a formal update on our kind of the projects that we have in mind for the next year or two and the current year. And as you know, also we've worked with SFC on a building review, a plan, basically a 10-year plan, and then another company before them on a 20-year plan, and then obviously the renovation helped address a lot of those issues. So the roofing project is complete, as you know. This year, I highlighted in here what we're anticipating work on. The repaving project was just not out to bid yet. Elevator upgrade, which the board has already approved. And I would see we're having conversations with Andrew about flooring and hearing loop updates, installations, and petty auditoriums. I don't have a number on that for you, a concrete number on that. That's what we anticipate taking on the rest of this remainder of the fiscal year. And then as you see in my memo, some thoughts about the next 2 years ahead of us. Obviously, the biggest ones are the third floor renovation, the potential for that, and I mentioned more information here about the chiller, which I also will get into in my other memo. That was something that kind of started developing in I would say July. Then I was off for 2 weeks and I came back and remember that it looks like we're gonna have to replace one of the chillers. I said, okay, so
I'll come back.
yeah, exactly. But that's why we have a reserve fund. That's why we plan these things out, so we're not stressed by this, and that's just a reality and we take care of it. So that will need more design and planning, and we need to work with consultant possibly to design the solutions. Figure out what's best for us. There's a ton of different options we can go with, different types of cooling systems. And then bid that out. We want to bid that out. It's going to be a big amount.
That chiller, I get it, we need to do it, but it had never been in our list of 3-year anticipated. When you've been giving us updates, chiller was never on the list, right? So this was a
we thought we had
surprise.
more years out of it.
What's that?
We thought we had more years.
Right, so I'm saying it's an $800,000 surprise that
It
wasn't
is.
in our projections.
Right. Well, not all of that is
What's
for
that?
It's on the list now.
It's on the list now. Yeah, no, I agree we need to do it. My point is,
No.
this list isn't in concrete things.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, and I point that out in my memo. I think the last thing I say is like, we never know. There's things can pop up. We never want to be in a position where we have nothing sort of. That's the cost of realities of operating and managing a big facility like this. Yeah, that's a good point. I also want to clarify that 800,000 isn't all for the chiller itself. The chiller will cost 600 some thousand, I think. It's like a ballpark number, and then there's consultant fees that are pulled into that, and also our server room on the third floor needs to have a updated replacement of the cooling system for that server room. And that's folded into this projection as well, because we did it all out together.
The question I have, is the chiller gas driven?
No, we have cooling towers. I can give anyone a tour if you want, but on the top of the third floor, we have cooling towers that go in conjunction with each other. If you ask me to explain it further than that, I'd have to call Andy, but that's essentially, the cooling towers and the chillers work together. They're physical chillers, like on the second floor, not mechanical. Honestly, if anyone wants to see them, I can show it to you. We have two. We have a larger, older one, the carrier, and then the smaller train chiller. The train, Andy has assured me through all his conversations with our HVAC contractor, they serviced that recently. It's in good shape. There's no sign of like not being replaced in the future, so we can get life out of that. But we don't, with a building our size, I don't know if I mentioned that here, but we don't want to be in a situation where we're relying on one cooling system, one chiller essentially. Like we can't afford that, because if it goes down, we would have to basically, in the summer, we'd have to shut down the building basically, because it would be too hot in here.
So what do we pay NICOR?
NICOR gas, that's just heating,
That's
kind of
the
a
heating
different,
Yeah.
that's why you see that bill drop.
Right, in the winter months, yeah, not for gas is for heat,
Winter months, it'll.
it goes up to thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, all of a sudden, I couldn't figure out when I only use the gas for.
Yeah. That's because it's the summer, we're not thinking about that right now. So I don't know if there are any questions, or this is not for action or anything, it's just an update. So.
Any other questions on the
I do, about
capital?
the,
Sure.
about the IT server room.
Yes.
So is that planning, if and when we decide that we're going to be renovating the third floor, are we doing any movement of that IT server room, or is that staying?
Well, that's
The plan to stay where it is, or are we moving it?
No, the master plan calls for that to be moved to a location that makes more sense, and then we would have to work that into our planning or redesign it out if we know with that budget. But I think the way, if I remember, I think I asked this question of Mark and Andy, our IT manager, Mark and services manager. I think that because of the cooling system, if we get a new one, I think it's in the general ballpark area where we can cool the new as well. So I have to check.
Okay, because I'm just thinking logistically, if we're gonna, what if we need to be doing this work on this sooner than we're ready for the change?
Yeah. We'll have
Do
to,
construction,
well,
like, we're gonna be putting all this work into an IT server room, of which we're then going to be moving. You know what I mean? So the timing, I feel like.
well, keep in mind, this isn't the actual server room, it's a cooling unit, which is not in the room actually. It's like kind of like on the other side of the IT office area, so it's like a
Okay.
unit that cools.
Right.
Air cooler to the actual rooms.
Okay,
It's like an air conditioning unit.
yeah,
I take your point though, like we'll have to, that's one of the questions we'll have to consider. Planning and designing all this with the consultant is raise that possibility so that we're not paying for something.
right.
Any other questions on the anticipated capital project? Okay, we don't have to approve it.
No.
Okay, we're gonna skip the next one and cover it later. So go to page 56, approval of cooling related repairs.
I think my memo says it all, but just as a summary, like I said, we had some cooling issues in June, July. This is one of those things that It's really because of the way Automatic billed us that it came out to be two invoices over $10,000, which is why I'm bringing it to the board. But they're always performing work and maintenance. And that's why we have nearly a $300,000 balance budget because of things like this. So, as you all know, Automatic does preventative maintenance, but then when a problem happens, like the building's consumed, they come and diagnose, and service, and try to fix the issue. This just kind of snowballed into something where they kept on not getting it to work and needing to further diagnose, try another thing, try to repair another part, and just kind of escalated to the point where it became the amount that it is. But I don't think there's anything like out of the ordinary or anything, but it did help us to lead to the point where we came to the realization that the best thing to do would be to replace one of our chillers. So I wanted to bring this to the board just to inform you of the background, but also I already talked to Mark about this and we agreed that it would be best to bring it to the board for retroactive approval because on paper it is a 10,000 each. Happy to try to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the payment to Automatic Mechanical of $20,383.20?
I'll move.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0.
Mark, did you want to say a little about this?
Well, do you want to change? Put it down.
Well, I
If you
mentioned.
do, mention it.
Okay, I do want to. Well, I mentioned to Mark that, my spending authority is 10,000, according to bringing to the board for approval, and that's been, as far as I know, what Carolyn had before me for many years. I'm not sure when that started actually, but that's in our finance policy, and I was just reflecting because of this and other charges that are kind of nearing 10,000, we're seeing more and more costs, obviously, like everyone else, for supplies, labor, and everything. It's getting to the point where 10,000 is more often than not close to what some of these higher invoices are, and just wanted to bring to the board ask if there's a possibility to consider raising that threshold. I've spoken with other library directors about this, and it really ranges, honestly. Every library handles this differently, but there are some libraries that it ranges from library directors who literally have to bring everything to the board, for approval, and all the way to 25,000, because that's the cutoff for when things go to the bidding process. So anything under that. Some directors, if it's within the scope of the approved operating budget at the beginning of the year, then the director is required to bring it to the board for approval. So something to consider, and I don't get an answer now.
If it's in the budget,
Sorry?
say that again, what you just said.
So some directors of libraries, if something, so the board approves the operating budget at the beginning of the year. So say there's 300,000 for maintenance of buildings and grounds. If we make any expenditures towards that, expending that budget, and we're on track, even if it's over like $10,000, they don't have to bring it to the board for approval because the board already approved the budget, right? So I think they're saying, okay, if you're staying within this scope, then that's fine. Don't have to bring it to us for approval. Other libraries, they say, well, no, if you're over like 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000 or whatever, bring it to us because we still want to hear about those kind of bigger expenditures. And I'm not saying either is right or wrong or anything, but I'm saying the 10,000 limit is something I'd like the board to consider adjusting. And if there is openness to that, happy to bring it to, put it on the agenda next month or whenever we meet again. And because it's about that time, November 22 is when we have to review the finance policy anyway, so we can fold it into that conversation. There's no rush on this.
Richard, given the size of our operating budget, I certainly think it makes sense for you to have authority up to that 25,000. I mean, I support that.
I mean,
Just so
just-
people know,
yeah.
the way it works now, is he has spending authority of the 10,000. Okay, if there's an emergency like this was an emergency, and it exceeds the 10,000 dollars, he calls me and gets a tentative approval of the expenditure. If there's something like this, obviously, we're going to approve it and let it go through, and then we bring in retroactively payment for it, so you know what's going on. I don't have a problem if we increase his authority in terms of expenditures, how much he can go without going before. But I would like it to come back to the board, so they see where the money's going. I think that's an important function.
And you'll always see that. You'll always see that through my disbursement reports and also just conversations with directors report. Obviously, if there's anything big, then I'll tell you about it. And again, I'm not asking for any decision now because it's not even on the agenda for an action item. If there's no objection, I can bring this up to November and consider a revised finance policy.
Why don't you bring it up in November, and then we can make a decision at that time, if we're gonna raise it and how much.
Okay.
I would say I'd be fine with raising it to another number. That alternative of something
Yeah,
sort
I
of
know.
within our budget isn't that specific, and that would get real mushy as to what you consider
Yeah.
covered under an item that we,
I agree.
yeah, so let's go with another.
Number.
I totally agree with that and see the rationale behind that. And I wouldn't want to go the other way of requiring our budgeting process to have
So
everything
specific.
outlined. That's
It's
a
a waste of
possible,
time.
yeah.
I think it might be helpful if we're looking at, just to do a quick analysis of like maybe the past year's expenses.
Sure.
Like say, how many have been between 10 to 15,000, between 15 to 20, 20 to
Or
50.
close
and-
to 10,000.
Yeah, and tear it out, because then maybe we can look at that and see where the biggest percentage of costs are going, and then determine the number based off of that, rather than making an arbitrary number.
Right, so you just,
Nobody can do that.
that's okay, you just want an analysis of the last year or two?
Yeah, I think so, because Richard just indicated that we're seeing a trend, but like, if we're at 10,000, it might be a big jump to go up to 25, but let's say the, like, 50% of the expenses are actually falling between 15 and 20, then we know we can cap it at 20, and then I just think it's good to take a look at it.
Okay, no problem.
We can get creative with the ultimate path forward. Like I said, every library really does kind of their own way. There's no set kind of rule.
There's no like library board best practices. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if there's something out there.
Yeah, let me look and do a little bit more research.
Rails.
Yeah, rails. I think what a lot of directors would advocate for is you approve the budget once and there's kind of like an inherent like approval of everything that fits into that budget. But like June said, that is assuming that budgeting process is very detailed. I don't want to do that honestly, and I don't think that's really possible with the population our size, so I don't want to come for like every state or whatever, so, I think that what we're talking about is better, like just a number, but maybe a little higher. All right, thank you.
Okay, the next three, we're gonna skip for now and do it at the end of the meeting. So move on to 79, approval of the 2022 staff day goals.
Yeah, that, as I stated in my memo, that just came out of a discussion actually with, I have those dialogue with donut sessions every, month. We have staff, open invitation for any staff member to come and sit down, have donuts, and we just talk about whatever, and I try to answer any questions that we have. And one of the questions that came up in 3 different sessions was, is there gonna be a staff day this year? So that led to more discussion.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand my staff.
One of the staff day, like a staff training day, basically.
Oh.
Or, yeah. The staff day, just as a reminder, is a day where we close the library and we have like training opportunities, team building opportunities, that kind of thing. And so So we started talking about that and so, yeah, let's try to do this. And if we're gonna do it, let's try to do it before the weather gets really bad. So we looked at all these dates and in October and we ended up deciding that Monday, October 24th would be probably the best date. We just pray for good weather, I guess. Because then we can utilize our outdoor spaces as well. So I think it'll be good. Last year we did a half day and it didn't feel quite the same as I've done on staff days. I know Gene, you've been to a staff day and Garrett's been to one. And they're really fun events. We try to make it really fun. And there's a lot of camaraderie and team building. We need that more than ever after the past couple of years. So I recommend that those are the library that dates of the full staff day. It would mean that we would close to the public that whole day because we don't want people to have a 9 to 5 staff day and then come to work 5 days. So just closing for that one day. We've done that in the past, but so it's like
In the past, just for historical context, how often do these staff days typically occur here?
We've done it once a year, mostly, in 2019. We were, before January 2020, we were gonna start the renovation project, so we did one at the beginning of the year, and then we did an extra one kind of early, because we moved it in January 2020, so we did it in November 2019. So that year we had 2. It was really 4 over the next 2 years.
Okay. And then prior to that?
Yeah, it's been once a year.
Once a year.
Other libraries, most libraries do at least once a year. I know there are some libraries that do 2. Some libraries do like multiple, but they close for multiple half days. We just like doing one once a year, just get it out of the way and make it cleaner and easier for us, our public to understand and kind of tolerate, because people do want to enter the building that day. It's hard to disappoint them by some.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the closing of the library for a staff day on October 24th.
So,
Okay, second. Okay, all in favor?
Yes. Aye.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next is the discussion of a potential change to the September 2022 board meeting date. Okay, I'm going to be gone out of the country for about 3 weeks for this September, so I'll be gone for the next meeting. Now, the issue Richard and I discussed whether we really need a next meeting. I don't think we do.
Yeah,
Coming up.
what Mark told me, I looked at our potential agenda, and because the board was considering action on the tax levy this month, if that does happen, then there's not like a huge thing that's normally on our September agenda. Anything that pops up could be pushed to October. But if the board doesn't take action on the tax levy today, then I think I would want to.
Well, I think we will take action, so that's today.
So as long as that happens, and I feel like we're good, if that's.
I'm traveling during that week too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
already I notified Susie of my
Okay.
business trip as well.
The only thing is, with the disbursements and all that will just be pushed so that in October you would receive double notice, which is fine. I mean, like we'll have it prepared anyway,
Yeah.
so. It's not
I do it monthly, so you'll just get to.
Have we agreed we'll skip September?
Is there anything that we need to pre-talk about in September that would come up on the October agenda?
October agenda, just 1 second. We have Susie and I have a cheat sheet here for that. 1 second. Not really. I mean, the October, we will have update on the health insurance plans, because that, we get that information next week officially, and then we'll on. It's an update, doesn't mean there's any action necessarily from the board. Then there's a quarterly investment update, which is standard. There's not really anything on the October calendar for the policy consideration.
Okay, are we all agreed? Get a day off.
And where are we going again, Mark?
We're going to Great Britain.
Oh, nice.
Good job.
Okay, so there'll be no September meeting.
Well, I think, Susie, do we need, remind me again, we don't need formal approval of this, do we?
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do, okay.
Okay, so we need a motion to cancel the September 22.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and passes 7-0. Okay, rails, anything to add to that wonderful report?
Always.
As always, I'm thinking
No, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna go into closed session, and we will discuss the other 4 items after the closed session. But we wanted to talk about the closed session and it affects those other 4 items,
The collective bargaining.
like the bargaining agreement, right? So we take a little break now, or we have to make a motion to go into closed session. Have a motion to go into closed session. Okay, we have a second? Second, okay, all in favor?